after this shit these guys create.
Scorched earth, baby. He fixes all our fuck ups.
Yeah, I also don't sleep at night, but Jake from Microsoft. Jake Jacob. Yeah. Boo for Jake Jacob.
That's right. Instant dequal.
Yeah, someone's got a fucking really fancy card. I can't even read that.
So fancy you can't read it?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It looks like a backwards L, but I think it's a J.
Something
Chris
Esquire.
Esquire.
Who's got a law degree in here?
410 Haxard. It's the Haxard shirt people. Anybody?
Actually, nobody. All
All
right.
right.
Must be
well,
present to win.
Must be present to win.
Samuel Goudet, got it.
Samuel got it.
Ah,
Good job. Tuck that back in.
Can't drink that all in one.
You gotta chug it. No, you gotta chug it. There's one taped under a chair in here.
Yeah.
If you find it, you gotta chug it.
You know the rules. Thanks, guys.
All right, everybody. Let me just preface this by saying if you're one of our clients, we act a lot more professional when we're on site. We promise.
We promise. Alright. So this is Getting the Goods with Smbexec with Mr. Martin Bos and myself, Eric Milam. Yay.
Yay! All right, so
Us too.
don't you know who we are? We work on the attack and pen team for AccuVant Labs. We also work on a bunch of open source projects on the side. Eric wrote a tool called Easy Creds. Anybody ever use that? That's right. Eric also wrote most of Smbexec. Well, maybe pretty much all of it. And he's also on the EtherCap development team. And we both work on the Kali Linux project, which, if you've been living under a rock, is formally Backtrack. And if you've never heard of that, you're really living under a rock. But anyway, so.
And EtherCap 0.8, we just dropped it. I want to say congrats to Gianfranco. He's one of our developers. He just got married. He actually was pushing code up until 10 minutes before he walked out on stage to get married. So that's fucking awesome. And in fact, when he asked his wife the day before, you know why tomorrow's so important? She said, because you're releasing EtherCat. So, you know she's a fucking keeper, right?
That's right. Those are consultant problems. I have those too, like when I'm on client sites and babies are born. All right, so what's this talk all about? It's called Smbexec. Basically, this tool was born from a couple of different reasons. I was on a client site, and they had an AV that I couldn't get by. I couldn't figure out why. No matter what payload I would use and what custom exe and everything, I would send it all with Metasploit, and it kept creating that Met SRV service. Anyway, it kept getting popped, and I was getting super pissed off, and I was calling Eric, and you know, I'm the kind of guy that won't go home until my shit works, right? So it's late at night, I'm calling Eric, and I run across a blog post by Cardinal Onage where he had the simplest solution. He just used SMB client because it's a legitimate tool, right? And he just uploaded something to Windows, and I was like, oh, well, if I was using legitimate tools to do this, you know, this would work. So I talked to Eric. Eric got some code going. You know, it sucked pretty bad in the beginning, but it worked. And Eric just ran with it, you know, like, and this is how a lot of tools are born, you know, like a lot of the stuff that people put out and is super polished is something that started out as, you know, like a couple shitty lines of code on a pen test.
Yeah, just a couple. Yeah, so basically all I did was fucking start Googling for stuff, right? And just if you've actually looked at my code, you can tell that it's a bunch of, you know, I try to make it function based, but it's really just a bunch of crap kind of thrown together and called. So the first one was a bash script. We're here to tell you that the new version is actually, it's 99.9% done. It's all Ruby. So that's what we're going to be demoing with today.
And a big shout out to Thomas McCarthy. I don't think he's here. He also works for AccuVant Labs, and he's the one that Rubyfied the code.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's pretty dope. We tested it, and it pretty much works. And he actually added a bunch of stuff. So we're going to walk through that the best we can. And like Martin was saying, I mean, the power of this tool really just lies in SMB client and WinExe. SMB client to put and get files, WinExe to execute. So it's all patched for hash passing, and I've actually obfuscated a lot of the executables that do actually end up on the desktop, and we'll talk about those later. So I think Martin kind of covered this. Like our shit was getting popped, and no matter what we did, the custom exe option didn't work, and it was actually triggering on service injection. And at that time, it was Trend Micro was actually the AV that was flagging us. So we threw it out to the community, and Mubix right away found out that it was a service protection issue. And then Martin found the blog post from kernel ownage, upload and execute your payload.
And this is something, just side tip, that I've learned on pen testing over the years is like, you know, like all the big fancy tools like Metasploit are great, but they're also much easier for AV companies to write signatures for, right? So keeping it simple has gotten me through so many pen tests, using tools that are already on the machine, using tools that Windows says are okay, you know, using stuff that is really a legitimate tool, and figuring out how to utilize it on the pen test has gotten me a long ways, and that was kind of the idea for this.
Yeah, I'm kind of sure that Command EXE is whitelisted in most places too, so you know,
That's
those
right.
types of things, right? So originally, like he was saying, it was just like, hey, we wanted to get our shells, we wanted to get our payloads up there, we wanted to execute it, we wanted to get our shell back, we wanted to do a lot of bad stuff. So we had it create a Metasploit RC file that would automatically launch for us, starts the listener. We had it so that it'll launch an Xterm or screen. It's your choice within the code. It's just a uncommenting one thing. Or if it doesn't recognize X is running, it'll automatically launch everything in screen. The later editions I didn't really talk too much about, but we actually, Hyperion Cryptor is something that's pretty awesome. I think it's null security that put it out. We use paid tools to make sure our payloads don't ever get caught. But this is, you know, if you can't afford to buy a tool to do it, the Hyperion Cryptor will get you past, you know, Microsoft Security Essentials and most other paid tools. In fact, I think we got it by FireEye, right? It was benign.
QRadar, FireEye, a couple other
Firehorse.
All said it was benign.
Yeah, benign. Had a whole bunch of crazy heuristic shit going on in the registry, but at the end it said benign, so. You want to go with that?
Yeah, so this is kind of like what I talked about already, right? Going native, right? Because those fancy tools are getting flagged by AV, right? So we're taking it back to like, how can I use, you know, Windows commands to do what I need to do? And so I personally don't like to use Windows, so I'm a big fan of the Linux tools that do stuff on Windows machines, right? And so so that's where all this stuff come from. We just wanted to be able to use SMB client, WinExe, all that kind of stuff. The other reason is, especially when you're inside an environment pivoted, I don't know about you all, but it's been my experience that most companies are primarily Windows environments, and when they do have Linux, they're already set up to work with AD and Windows and all that kind of stuff. So most of this stuff that we use is already there and all set up for us. So when we pivot in, we don't even have to install anything or anything like that.
Yeah, so basically, I don't know if you guys have heard of WinExe. Does anybody, other than Smbexec, does anybody use WinExe or know about it? Wow. Okay. It's fucking awesome. Like,
Fantastic
and
tool.
let me apologize. I cuss like a sailor. I don't mean to offend anybody. I'll try to keep it under wraps, I guess. But WinExe is basically, it's just like the sysinternals PSExec tool, but it's written and compiled from Samba source code. So there's a whole bunch of different flags in there. My two favorite, of course, is the -my system flag, which lets you run anything in system. And then also the uninstall flag, which actually what we use to clean up after itself. So Smbexec cleans itself up. There's no real quote-unquote payload necessary. There are some things that touch disk, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the caveats, but you can basically get a command shell back from a victim just by doing the WinExe, giving it the IP address, and typing CMD and hitting enter. And we'll show you that as well. All of it, like we were saying, we want it to look like normal offset traffic. It's a login to a machine, and then it's running a basic Windows command. Most of the time, that's not going to get caught. But if someone's actually looking for successful logins, right, since it's an automated tool, it might log in 4 or 5 times in like 10 seconds. So if someone's actually looking for that, that might be a flag.
Go ahead.
Yeah, all right. So this is a slide we wrote like 10 seconds ago. So there's a bunch of different options, and the first one that we're going to walk through and demo is the enumeration, right? So a lot of the enumeration stuff after we did all the payload stuff was me and Martin talking, or us talking to other people saying, hey, what would be cool is if it did this, right? And that's like we were saying earlier, that's how most scripts actually get born and get built. So
this came from my biggest pet peeve about Metasploit. Good thing Egypt's not here, but my biggest pet peeve about
Metasploit.
We love it. But what I can't stand is when I get some credentials and I try to use them with SMB login, and it says that I successfully logged into every machine, but you really can't log into those particular machines when you try it, and it's because of the way the module contacts the domain controller to check if the logins are successful. It will say, yes, this person can log in, but it doesn't go so far as to say, do they have privileged rights to actually log into that particular system. So that was one of the reasons that we did this. There's nothing worse than getting some credentials and then being on a 50,000 IP network and not knowing where your person can log in.
Yeah, like you were saying, basically, in the SMB login, we still use that to validate, like if we crack a domain cache credential, we'll use that real quick to make sure that, yes, it's a valid login or not a valid login. But the main difference is with Smbexec, when we test it against $, which actually lets us know, yes, we can actually log into this machine, we can query this machine. So one of the other things too, and I forget what you were doing, but you called me up and you're like, damn, it'd be awesome if I knew which system had DA on it so I can just go after just that one. And I believe there are some tools in Metasploit, but most of us, what we do is we write our own scripts or RC files that once we pop 50,000 shells, and we go through and we look for the one that has the domain admin token and all that. So we built that in, so it was a real quick check. And then of course UAC, we don't run into it very often. I don't know how often you guys do, but pretty much sucks when you can't elevate. So it allows you to look and see where it's enabled, and it also has the ability, if you're a local admin, to disable that on as many systems as you want. So demo me some enum. That's fucking hilarious, right? I love that.
That's an awesome picture, isn't it? I want everybody to take that in.
Yeah, let me give you a second to digest there. Can you guys see that in the back? All right. Oh man, I was laughing my ass off when I saw that. All right, I'm not sure this is gonna work, so we're gonna make it happen though. So we did not record. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, let me preface this by all of this stuff definitely works in the Bash version, but we are showing you Thomas's new Ruby version that he helped us out with. So if something doesn't work, that doesn't mean that it doesn't work in the tool on GitHub. But Eric's gonna make it work. I'm
making it work. There you go, Smbexec 2.0.
Great menu.
Awesome. All right, so we're gonna look at the system enumeration. Option 1, of course, first thing we want to do is create a host list. Takes a little bit. So there's two different ways that it can do this. There's actually a host list Ruby library that was created, and there's also, it uses the Nmap, the Nmap Ruby gem, or Ruby Nmap gem. So it's your choice. There's actually a config file, and that where you can set all the paths to your executables. You can set how many threads you want. We did this with like 30 threads on 1,000 systems, and we got through all the hash grab stuff in like 20 minutes. It was awesome. So hopefully it should find 6 hosts. All right, you can see there, took a little bit of time. You can see there, now it's got 6 hosts identified up here. So if we wanted to check those hosts for domain admin, we do option 2. We can enumerate shares. We can check the system for logged in users. So let's just go ahead and do that. We'll do option 3. So right there, you can give it your target IP, you can give it a host list, Nmap XML file, whatever you want, but it's already got 6 hosts identified, and that's what we just scanned. So I'm gonna hit enter. I'm gonna give it local credentials.
And it does work with local or domain credentials.
Yeah. So if you, as long as it's so logon failure there, that's the domain controller. See, it's basically telling you who's logged in where and what. It got basically it didn't log into one of them, so it's got, if you are using a domain account, and let's say this is a protection so it won't lock it out. So the first time it has a failure, it's going to tell you, hey, do you want to abort this? You want to continue? So we found 9 users. So We can also check the systems for domain admin to see where they're logged in at. It's all pre-populated for you. I'm sorry, sir, you can't leave.
He's going to drink his whiskey.
So there you go. So what we're looking at here is, oh, hey, look, it found, it was able to log into these systems, and it found Pure Love, Top Dog, Mudvayne, and Purehate, all admins, domain admins logged into these systems. So we know right there, those are systems we're going to fucking go after.
I mean, that's because I roll logged in all day as
That's
a DA.
right. That's how we roll.
Isn't that what you're supposed to do? I mean, I check email and everything.
So one other thing I wanted to show you, I don't have this, but it will go out and do a file find for unattended install. And you can add any file you want, but you see it looks for all the sysprep stuff. No, I don't have any of that there, but it'll go out and actually find that for you if it's out there. So. No, I don't know how to get back to the thing.
Uh-oh. Isn't it open office? That's it.
Oh, what the hell is it? We killed it.
What? There we go.
All right. Like I said, we're not good with technology.
Computers are hard.
Yes. Like I said, I'm not wearing my black turtleneck, so the Mac thing's not working out too well.
All right, so like Eric was saying, one of the cool things that it does is we have several different ways in there that we use to obfuscate shells. We sit around all day with every AV in the world installed, trying to bypass as many of them as possible. I don't know about y'all, but that's what I do on Friday night because that's all I want to do is bypass that kind of stuff. It's interesting. I'm not going to slam or talk up any AV companies, but it's really interesting the ones that are more difficult to bypass because they're not the top ones that everybody uses in their company. They're usually smaller ones that are harder to get through.
So close.
Anyway, so Smbexec does a bunch of stuff. It'll give you a interpreter shell. That's everybody's favorite interpreter. Like I said, I love Metasploit. It just wasn't doing what we needed it to do at the time. This worked for us. You can set persistence, you can run a system, all of that kind of stuff. And then finally, one of the new features is you can run as PowerShell.
Yeah, so it's still being worked on, but you can actually execute PowerShell commands from within Smbexec, the Ruby version. I suck.
Seriously?
All right. He's on fire. All right, so system exploitation options is what we're going to just walk through real quick. The main thing that Martin and I usually end up doing is we'll create one executable in RC script, and that's something that we'll obfuscate it, like I said, with some paid tools. We sign it. I can tell you, if you guys have a code signing cert, sign all your shit with it, because that's how FireEye and all them will like look at that and be like, oh, it's a valid certificate? Good, we're good to go.
So stuff like FireEye and QRadar, it looks like, and this is an exact figure, but I mean, we didn't do anything to a Metasploit payload except for sign it, and it said it was benign. Yeah. So it adds a lot of weight to a valid signed binary.
Yeah, it was during one of their bake-offs. They had like 4 different things going at once, and it was like, wow.
By the way, I love FireEye,
yeah.
Just in case anybody's here.
That's right. We love all people, all kinds. So if you look at that, you know, basically you can create an executable in RC script. It has obfuscation within there, thanks to Hostess, who did some extra stuff for DEP bypass, I believe, and made it look like, you know, kind of like the shellcode exec type stuff. You can enable, disable UAC, execute PowerShell, get shell. So the one thing I want to show you just real quick, we talked about getting shell. Can you guys actually see that? Should I make that bigger, the font? Yes, bigger, or yes, it's good? You got to rub it to make it bigger.
I hear that a lot, but I can never deliver.
You got to rub it. You got to rub it. All right, is that better? Okay, cool. Okay. All right, so what we talked, and I'm sorry when the X terms pop, you guys, I can't make those bigger. I'm sorry, but so basically we're just going to say, hey, let's just get shell on these systems. We're going to pass it the same credentials, and it says, hey, we're going to do it on 6 boxes. Are you sure? Fuck yeah.
One of the cool things, though, like Eric was saying, like, I hate this xterm thing, like me personally. Like, there's a lot of tools that do this. So what we did was we made it so if you're running this on a server or something like that, it will check for xterm, and if it's not there, it'll launch it in a screen session, which is much better.
Yes, much better. So you can see we basically got shells on pretty much every single machine. And I know you can't, I don't know if you can see that, but who am I? It says I'm system. So we basically just launched it, logged in with local admin. If UAC is enabled, it just automatically bypassed all that. You're running the system, you're good to go. And I use this a lot, like, you know, when I don't want to have to upload an actual, killed it. I don't want to actually have to upload a binary to it, but I can tell you, in order to create this service connection for WinExe, it does upload an executable. The version that we're releasing, though, I've obfuscated that, so AV shouldn't catch it. But it does create a service, which, again, one of the things we'll talk about later can be a red flag. And then we're not going to go through popping another kind of shell, because I think we've all kind of seen that. But I do want to show you real quick that we can execute PowerShell. So this is new, it's still being worked on, giving it the same creds. There's a folder that you have in your directory, it's called PowerShell, so whatever scripts you put in there, you should be able to run them. So it's asking which one I want to run, and it's enum drives.
And in the future, we'll probably have some options in there to execute, you know, create more PowerShell scripts with options and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's still kind of new. It's just something that we threw in there. We're going to work with ObscureSec on some stuff. We've tested kind of the minimum.
We've heard PowerShell is the future.
Yeah. Sorry, my system's
Is that going to make Chris
slow.
happy that I said that?
It is.
Cool.
It's all about the PowerShell. So basically, we run PowerShell, and we can actually look at the different drives. So it will do the minimum amount of stuff, at least right now. So. Oh.
That was for our demo,
Hey,
but
yeah, there. Hey, okay.
we wanted to see this picture.
Fuck, I'm sorry.
If Eric learned anything from me, it's that your presentation hinges on good pictures.
Is that another good one? Did I do all right on that one? It says, I've seen the end of the world. No one was spared, not even the children.
All right, so basically this is just some of the other stuff that Smbexec can do. So there was some research a couple of years ago, and then some more research even longer ago that some people brought up. One of the main things that we wanted to do was dump hashes from workstations and servers without injecting into the LSAS process. The reason for that is that once every now and then, it doesn't happen that often, but once every now and then a domain controller will tip over when you try to use Meterpreter's hash dump or FG dump or any of those kind of tools. And I don't know if you've ever been on a pen test when you tipped over the domain controller, but it's not fun. Anyway, so the way around that is to create a volume shadow copy of the actual ntds.dit file and use the same. And this is, did I get ahead of myself?
No, keep going. We're good.
All right, so it's actually to make a copy, of the ntds. I can't even say it. Whatever.
Okay, so the
ntds.dit file.
Say San Luis Obispo.
All right. And make a copy of that, download it to your machine with the sys and the SAM key files, open it up, and get the creds out of that. Totally safe for the domain controller, doesn't do anything to it. And so that's how, one of the ways that we use to get hashes off the workstations and the domain controllers. There's a couple of different types of hashes that we wanted to get. We wanted to be able to get local hashes, of course. We wanted to get domain cache credentials, of course, because that's where the real gold is on the machine. And then, where's the WCE? Is that another slide?
That's next, yeah.
Oh. And then there's another way.
Yeah, so basically, and if you'll look, you'll see the regexe.save. Again, we're using a Windows command to just save off those files out of the registry so they're no longer protected, downloading them to our local machine, and then running them to extract the hashes out of them.
So there's one small caveat to the creating a volume shadow copy is that if you're a really crafty network admin, you use the actual volume shadow copy to create stuff. So every time you use it, it increments the number one time. So if you actually know what the number was the last time you created a volume shadow copy, and then you go in there to create another one, and there's been like 3 or 4 more numbers since then, and you know nobody did it, then you can go back forensically and be like, what the hell happened to my machine? Somebody was on here creating volume shadow copies. So it won't stand up forensically, but raise your hand if you're a network admin and know what number volume shadow copy your domain controller is on.
Yeah, plus we fucking delete that shit, so it looks like we weren't even there.
I thought so.
Yeah, so it does lots of stuff. It grabs the local hashes. This is by far my favorite. I don't pop shells anymore. Once I get a valid login, I use the hash grab function, because what I want as quickly as I can, remember we went back and we saw who the domain admins were? If I know I could log onto that box and I can extract the clear text passwords out of memory for that domain admin, I'm using his creds, because they aren't turning that shit off, right? If I go out and create my own account, you know, it might get caught, might get flagged, might get blocked if they're protecting the OUs on the domain controller. So what we like to do is gather as many domain admin credentials as we can, so then we'll create an account maybe as a red herring for them to shut down on a pen test, and then we just keep using the system account or whatever it was.
Who's heard of WCE?
Woo!
Awesome.
Yeah, so this isn't political for us. We got nothing against Mimikatz.
We just like this better.
We like this better. I mean, it was like 5 lines of code for me to put it in there. Again, it touches disk. But what I've done is I've worked with Hernan on testing WCE, so the new version, and we've gotten permission from him. We've obfuscated it so that the WCE executable is obfuscated, and also the resource DLLs within those are obfuscated. So I've obfuscated everything. So there's no way that AV is going to be able to, well, I can't say no way, but AV is going to have a hard time with the signatures, for sure.
We're currently ahead of the curve.
Yes.
Probably not after this talk, but
Yeah, we're the cats right now.
we'll think of something else next week.
Right. I'll just recompile it in a different way. So, but we do our best to make sure, and that's just, we give that to you. That's just part of it. So.
Right.
What about FIM? You get around FIM with it, or?
I don't even know what FIM is. Is that like?
No,
Well,
so
not if we upload to the.
not if we
directory.
upload, because it does, and we'll talk about it at the end. There are some caveats. It's not, this tool isn't meant to stand up to forensics, so to speak. So stuff like, you know, app locker and like file integrity stuff, depending on how it's configured. I see a lot of people with those type of tools implemented, but if they're not configured properly, of course, as we all know, it doesn't matter. But so it just depends where the file integrity monitoring is taking place, you know, that type of stuff, whether it will work or not.
Yeah, and a lot of times, I mean, we do look for like the obscure folder, right, that's not being monitored, because a lot of times they just implement the FIM to look at just these directories, right, or these are the important ones. So there's plenty of other directories to put them in.
Yeah, I mean, you can upload this. You can do a file share. I mean, you can create your temp file wherever when you do this. And the WCE is part of the hash grab functionality. So basically, when the hash grab functionality is executed, it takes 3 things: the local admin creds, the domain cache credentials, and the passwords out of clear text memory. Puts those in 3 different files for a folder for you.
So as Martin was talking about earlier, the automated BSC, volume shadow copies, and yes, we know there was a blog post in 2011. There's actually a blog post in 2005 where the original idea was kind of first talked about, I guess. And it was, I think, Dan Cortese, I think was the guy's name, but February of 2005, so it's been around for a while. We're not breaking any ground here, but what we did is we tried to automate it. It's all live, it's all over 445. You basically point it, fire it, it does everything, cleans up after itself, pulls everything local, then it uses libescdb, and it uses NTS extract to actually extract the hashes out for you and create a hash list for you off the domain controller. It deletes everything, like I said, uninstalls the services. It's like you were never there. Right.
Come on.
That's probably the cat that was watching the one at the beginning masturbate, I think. So, all right, so let's see here. All right.
It's all about the pictures.
Hey,
Remember that.
You guys got to help me find that again. I got too much shit going on. Okay. All right, so main menu. Obtain hashes. I'm going to start with the workstations and servers. So I'm going to stick with the same 6 hosts. Administrator, I has password, it's local host. Again, like Martin was saying, you could use a domain account. If you did, you just put the domain in there and we'll show you what that looks like when we do the domain controller.
And this is one of the reasons for using your domain account, using the system enumeration to check where that domain account actually is able to log in, because then you can make a better list of computers to go after for the credentials without making more noise on the network.
Yeah, like you can see up there where it says DA found 4. Let me open up another tab real quick here. You can see DA found 4. Like we would just go straight after those machines, right? That we knew had the domain admin account on there. We're just going to continue. Sorry, this was working much better last night in my hotel room. But you can see it already found, you know, on this one machine, it found 5 local hashes, found 7 cache credentials, and it found 1 in memory.
So it tells you how it found them, where it found them, everything.
And what it's doing right now is it's logging in with SMB client. It's uploading the WinExe. I'm sorry, it's uploading the WCE. It's also going through, oh, it's finished, okay. So what it did is basically SMB client, it put WCE up there, and then also used WinExe to log in, run that regexe command to save off the system and the SAM and the SEC. Pulled all those down local and cracked them. So you can see, here's a nice long list of systems that it found. So let's go ahead and go into the log file, see what I can't. So this actually breaks it out. You can see you've got all hashes by host, you've got cache, local, memory. So let's go ahead and we'll cat the all, if I can spell. So I know it's kind of a mess probably on the screen, but what you're looking at here is, here's all the systems right there. We got our local hashes, we've got our domain cache credentials, and here's the accounts that we pulled out of memory. Now if you look at that, you're not going to crack that, right? That's 20 characters. Well, challenge accepted. So I'm looking at this one here, top dog, right? Password. That's Martin's password. So if you guys find anywhere to log in, try that with Purehate, and it should work. But as you guys can see, it gives you all the stuff. You can. It's in a John format, so you can go out and throw in an OCL hashcat, whatever you want. But the dope thing for me is that now I have all this clear text. So.
We like clear text.
But yeah, if I don't have to do any work, then of course that's the route I'm going. So while we're at it, let's go ahead and go after the domain controller. I know that it's this one. There's simple dig commands that you can find the list of the domain controllers or NSLOOKUP or whatever. So I'm going to go after that. We're going to go with top dog and password, and Brav0hax was the domain. So it's asking you, where do you want to save the shadow copy, right? So it creates the volume shadow copy, it copies this stuff out. So you have to tell it, yeah, I want to save it in C.
And if it's a gigantic domain controller, you do have to have enough room to actually make the volume shadow copy, but it will check for you if the drive space is available, and if it's not, you can just specify another drive.
Yeah, so you'll see here, it's checking if the drive space actually exists for that. And if it does, then it starts it. If not, it will tell you, hey, there's not enough room, there's nothing we can do about this. So you see it created the shadow copy, it's deleting the shadow copy, it's deleting all the files that it put, it's uninstalled the service, the WinExe service, and you'll see here it says domain hashes that were dumped, 29.
And if this is a big pen test, this can take a long time.
Long time.
You do have to be a little patient.
So if we cat that.
But there is a progress bar, right?
Yes, but it was so fast, just like me in bed. But you couldn't even see it, right? It just happened. It was done. So if you look, so here's all the
Why do you keep
hashes.
showing him my password?
Because
Oh.
it's not your real password. Oh. So that's all the hashes off the domain controller. So now basically you've got pretty much the keys of the kingdom. You can start moving around the network as freely as you want to at this point. Start looking for databases that have NTLM authentication, which is what we love.
Yep. That's one of my favorite things. But apparently, it's not a vulnerability. I was.
It's
had
a
big
medium.
argument. It's a medium.
It's a medium.
It's a medium.
That's a whole nother talk for a whole nother day.
That's right.
All
I actually
right.
might talk about that next
All right,
year.
I'll start with these.
Go
All
ahead.
right, so the caveats, right? There's always something. Don't let anybody sell you a bag of goods, right? You've got to have a local administrator password to get started. You've got to have something, right? If you don't have a local administrator password, you're not going anywhere. You're not doing anything. So what we like to do is just throw around the credentials, administrator, and password, and 9 times out of 10, we get on a box, and it's all kind of downhill from there. We like to do some NBNS spoofing. I'm comfortable with EtherCap. I love it. And of course, there's still always MS08067. So thank you, MS08067.
And we do have birthday cake for MS0867 tonight because we like it so much we celebrate its birthday at DerbyCon. We never want it to die. All right, so these are more caveats, right? There are some. When EXE does create a service, it can be stopped or become a red flag. I was recently at a client site where they were pretty much in the Narnia of security. They were doing everything right. And one of the things that they wanted to do was look for, create some rules, app blocker, that type of thing to look for the WinExe service that was created. For the most part, we can get by any AV, but like I said, it's a cat and mouse game like everybody knows. We might be ahead of them this week. They might be kicking our ass next week. But currently, we're doing pretty good. You do have to authenticate over port 139 or 445. And the low cards exchange principle. Every contact leaves a trace, right? I mean, there's not a lot of tools that don't leave some kind of trace whatsoever. But like I said, we're not evil hackers. We don't usually care whether our stuff can stand up to forensics. It's very, very, very limited amounts of time where we actually do something that doesn't have to stand up to forensics. So it works for us. If you have to bypass a forensics team, this might not be the tool for you.
Yeah. So where can you get it? Of course, SourceForge GitHub is the original bash script. It's still out there. I'm going to release a version 1.3. Lots of changes, but I'm waiting for him to release NTDS Extract version 1.2. I sent him a bug report. He sent me a link to a new version, but he's made me promise I won't actually release or give it to the public until he does, of course, which makes sense. Royce Davis from Pentest Geek, if you guys saw his talk yesterday, totally awesome. PS exec command, NTDS grab, those are 2 modules that already exist in the framework that basically do the same type of stuff. He's also, I believe, got 4 or 5 other ones that all mimic all the different functionality within it. Mpacket, I don't know them, but it looks like they developed some stuff in Python based on the work that Royce did. And then you guys just saw Smbexec version 2.0, which is a Ruby port. Like I said, we're still working out the bugs, but if you guys actually open this up within your network and set the threads and go through the config, you guys will be fucking amazed. It's pretty cool, especially the hash grab stuff was awesome. And that special thanks to Brandon McCann and Thomas McCarthy. And again, Thomas had a wedding to go to today, different guy, but he was fucking working on this at 2 in the morning. I was still sending him bugs and he was fixing it.
Here's just a list of a lot of the places that we got code from. Like I said, I wanted to make sure that, Cardinal Ownage got the credit for the original blog post. We stole a lot of the original obfuscation stuff out of the vanish.sh script. And I'm not going to go through all of these, but these are all of the tools and pieces of code and stuff that we use in Smbexec.
We're really big on giving credit to everybody, how big or small that we actually use their stuff, so. And give to Hackers for Charity. Go buy a t-shirt. We love them.
Hackers for Charity.
We got to beat 34,000. Where are we at?
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, that was my question.
No clue. Why don't you go ask them at the booth? I actually don't know. I have no idea. So we usually don't total that up to the end because they have so many different avenues of stuff coming in.
If you're leaving already and you don't leave unless you don't like liquor. So what do we have for trivia?
Are we doing another
Just a trivia.
We're doing trivia?
Make something up.
Trivia.
I'm going to throw this into the audience, and whoever guesses
Trivia?
it. Who wrote Die, Die, My Darling? Oh, God.
It should have raised the hand.
You do it then. I'm not smart enough, clearly. Because you're both right. So...
Who can tell me the name of the person? You have to raise your hand. The name of the person that was incarcerated for hosting Windows source code.
Martin Bos.
Right there. He wins.
Sorry.
Give it to someone else?
Thank you, everybody.
God. Now we got to give it away.
Fuck. I'm throwing it in the audience.
What company has the greatest pen test team on the planet?
You're giving it away. I'm not giving it away.
This guy's still standing.
Yeah.
You wanted it back.
Yeah. Thank you guys for showing up. We appreciate it. Hopefully it wasn't too horrible for you.